the feeling you told me the other day that we have many thousands for the streets, but we think we're having the debate that this is not enough because what comes next? The key is what comes next. This is the key, because if you don't have an idea of what to put the feet when you have put what's the next step, then you don't have an agenda. And powers have agendas.
Negras tormentas agitan los aires, nubes oscuras nos impiden ver, aunque nos espera el dolor y la muerte, contra el enemigo nos llaman de ver. El bien más preciado es la libertad, luchemos por ella con fe y con valor, hasta la bandera revolucionaria que llevará al pueblo a la emancipación, hasta la bandera revolucionaria que llevará al pueblo a la emancipación. En pie el pueblo obrero a la batalla, hay que derrocar la reacción, a las barricadas con el triunfo de la confederación, a las barricadas con el triunfo de la confederación.
This is the office where the local committee makes his tasks with his planning and his computer. This is the place where the legal advisor makes his work. This is the place of the organizational team with his plans and things like that. And here's the place where we have the people that need assessment on their everyday problems on the workplace. They don't belong to the union, but we have an interview here and we try to convince and explain them the positive ways of being a member of the union. We make a clear differentiation with the resources we put on the membership and the people outside, just to make the people outside see the importance of belonging to the union.
And we can officially begin.
Okay.
So, we are at the CNT, at one of the CNT offices in Barcelona.
In the city of Hospitalet. We are the union that is federated to the CNT in the city. The city has 270,000 people living here. It's predominantly low-class people. It's a city of working people. And our role is to try to organize a huge amount of people just to make improvements in our life conditions through strikes and mobilization, and with the perspective of an anarcho-syndicalist union, to give this for us as a tool to progress as working class.
And how would you relate this type of syndicalism with, because as you said, you are an anarcho-syndicalist union, with anarchism as a political ideology or even strategy, if you like?
This is very interesting because I understand that anarcho-syndicalism is like steel, and anarchism is like iron. And unionism is like carbon. When you melt carbon and iron, you get steel. It's another stuff. It helps to make another things. Another things is better with steel than with iron. And maybe I'm orthodox about this approach, but I think that when in the 30s the idea of anarcho-syndicalism was developed, mainly in Spain, then ideologically you have no way to get back. When you have steel, you can go back to iron or to carbon. But how it is related with anarchistic ideas it's simple. The inspiration and the plan is anarchistic. The way to put this on the reality is with the tool of the union. But the ideas are anarchistic. So the melting pot of that is a new concept in the 30s that was anarcho-syndicalist. This is a very an approach, because I know that comrades in other places have another background, another historical background and another experiences, so they have a little bit differences with this kind of approach I'm talking about. But the simplest way I have tried to put it in all my life is that one of the steel and the iron. Because sometimes, even here in the 80s, there were the debates of, we're a union, but we are anarchists, so how can we differentiate to other unions? We have to make many anarchistic way of functioning to make that difference with another unions. But the problem of that is that unionism, it involves masses of people organized. And anarchistic ideas, you need to have the simplest way of organizing and the more horizontal one. The problem with that is that it's very difficult to organize such masses of el sindicalismo involucra juntar muchísima gente, organizar masas de personas, muchas. Y los sistemas de decisión anarquistas muy horizontales son difíciles para funcionar con tantas personas. Con pocas personas es muy fácil. Tú puedes hacer una asamblea con 100 personas y tener más o menos un resultado lo más democrático directo posible. Porque con 100 personas habrá dinámicas de mayor participación, dinámicas de menos participación, pero el debate será muy democrático. Cuando tienes miles y miles de personas, tienes que buscar un sistema que equilibre, que todo el mundo pueda decidir o tenga la oportunidad de participar, pero que se tomen decisiones, que sean prácticas y se pongan en marcha. We have a saying here that says something like, the enemy doesn't debate, actuates. They make things, they don't debate. Which is a saying we use when the assemblies go very long, and circulating debates that doesn't evolve. So, what's the mystery about how you can organize a huge society or a huge amount of members with an anarchistic view, but with the necessity of getting to the point and make things? You have to, we think, you have to make different portions of participation, diferentes ámbitos de participación. I don't know what's the right word in English. Ámbitos de participación. Put it simple. If we were in libertarian communism right now, in my city, and we were organized with a council and many assemblies, and maybe organize it on sectors of economy or something like that, I don't know if I have to make my opinion in every issue. For example, maybe I can participate in how we have to extinguish fires, but not in how the hospital has to organize the heart surgery issues. And if I do not participate in the health part of the municipality, it's not democracy. I think that from May 68, in anarchism, they have a very influence of individualistic options and ways of thinking, but individualistic not in the tradition of anarchistic ideas, but in the background of the society of consumption, the consumption society, which obviously needs to enhance the person, the ego, the individual one from the collective, because collective can give you power, and individual you are just a client, the society of clients. So when sometimes in the 80s, in the 90s, the debates were, but I have to decide, but I have to vote. Well, in your issues that are in your area of interest and capacity of making things, yes, obviously. But I don't know if the person, the individual, the ego has like a power of decision of every aspect of society. I don't know. So the trick, if you want, is to decide what's the equilibrium on assembly and power of decision, direct decision, and centralism. If you go many centralists, then you are parting from libertarian ideas, and you don't have a democratic and a participatory society, which is the thing you want to develop and to construct. So is to get the equilibrium. You don't have to go to a many centralization, but if you go in a very transparent way, saying every person must have his opinion in every aspect, then you will have a problem, because you will have to put in things moving on. So if you create spaces of decision, then you can get the optimum equilibrium. And if you can have the possibility of decide whether you want to participate, then you are enhancing this equilibrium and making a very direct democratic way of living. But we don't have to. We have to take in count a very important thing, that it's what we're talking about is something that nobody has put on march, never in the life. We have experiences, brief in time, that can enlighten us to even to define us as anarchistic or anarcho-syndicalistic or whatever. For example, the 3-month experience in Spain, but you have the experience now in Rojava, which is not, well, it's a little bit similar, but it's interesting. You have the experience in Russia when there was a revolution in Ukraine, the Black Army and so on, but nobody has made a society sustaining time with this time. So why this is important? It's important because we are inventing. And when you're inventing, you will make mistakes. And if you make mistakes, you can evolve and enhance. So I think the practical thing is decide one system that suits all people, and then put it to work. And then with seeing the results, you have to validate and analyze and say, I'm doing something. Yeah, I'm better than last year. I'm worse than last year. What's the problem? We live in a very, very complex society. We are not the same people that the working class in the 30s. We have not the same psychological, cultural background. So we have to understand that maybe some affirmations of ideology in the 30s simply doesn't
work now. I have two questions based also on my previous visit here, which we did a little tour on the spaces here, and you told me that in this office there is the office where people come to say their problem, there is the office of the lawyer, and that, if you remember, made an impression to me, because as I told you, in relation to what you said before also, how individualism has affected our movements, that it's a pretty similar situation in the Greek anarchist movement, where we get confused and we confuse anarchism with, or anarchy with having an opinion, deciding about everything, with
yes.
highlighting the ego. And also in Greece, syndicalism comes from a more leftist tradition, because we don't have your historical experience. So in relation to that, I have two questions. The first one is to describe how you operate as organization, the things you told me the other time in terms also of space. And the second one is, what would you say are the basic differences from an anarchist syndicalist organization and the left syndicalist organization?
The idea is that we are in the union, we are a working team with an objective. The objective is aggregate the higher number of working people in a type of organization that brings to the light the participation, because for a very simple idea, struggling inside an enterprise needs to not to think individually and think collectively. So we learn to do that here, organizing, but for the time we have the conflict in the enterprise, we have developed that ideas, that ways of functioning. So for us, union is a school for the revolution, for the social change. If we have a very interesting approach with the words we use, because we know if we say revolution to some people, they simply didn't know what we are talking about. They didn't know. If we speak about social change, everyone understands. It depends. Maybe they agree, maybe don't, but they understand what you're talking about. But when I speak about social change, I am speaking about revolution. And I can not bring fear to the minds of people, or even activate previously thoughts about revolutions, violence, and things like that. So it's interesting to just think about the language you use, because with certain language, I only speaking to you and nobody more. And even I have an idea of what you are understanding of my words, and maybe it is not, it is wrong. Maybe I think if I come to you and say libertarian communism is the simplest and more equal way to organize society, and I think that you are understanding just that, just transparent that I said it or put it in the debate. But maybe if I say libertarian communism, you don't have any idea of what is this. You are thinking about Russia, about the Cold War, and maybe about strike is equal to violence. And so I create a wall between you and me, because language, which it means it is constructed to share thoughts in the complex society of today, is not as simple as that. So it's very important to just think about what the language, what I am expressing, because if you only if my debate is only understandable by you and nobody more, I can't bring masses to the union. This is a base idea I shared to you. Then, how we organize? If we're a team of work, we have to organize that work. So, if we want to help people, and if we have people twice a week, 3 hours in every day, it's obviously that I can't go to the point, because in 2 hours and a half or 3 hours and a half, if the work, if the plan is not organized and ordered, in 2 hours they fly. The time flies, we say here. Time flies. So we can do what we want to do, what is helping people. So we need to use separate spaces, because every person has a duty, and maybe the work it can be do together. You can do an assembly to decide for the people of one enterprise to go on a strike. If you have 3 persons that need orientation for a problem in his work, you can do both things at the same time. So you have to separate. Another thing interesting is that in this office, we don't have enough space just to socialize. But this is not a bad thing, because if we, for example, I come to the office to get the problems of people and share ideas to help. But my main is to socialize. We have a problem here, because what is more important? During 1 hour, examining a problem, reading documentation, or socialize. So socialize is important, is good, but you have to make a system that separates socializing and working. And when you write a pamphlet, when you design a poster, or you are making glue for putting posters on walls, this is working. This is working as reading, as every aspect in life. So if you don't organize, and you don't organize the space for being suitable to make different works, then the people can participate. And one aspect which is very important is credibility. Sometimes with this kind of debates with other comrades, I put the same example. Just think about what's the experience of a person, an anonymous person, going to your office for making an answer or explaining a problem, because they went to the website and they read CNT, the Revolutionary Union. I go there and I will share my problem. Just think, what's the experience of that person? And put it, if that experience was the experience you get when you go to the hospital, you will be enough comfortable with that. The classic example. If you were to the hospital and the doctor or the doctress was not there, was late, or forgot about the day you have to go to the hospital, what do you think? What do you will think in that situation? Well, pues libertarian communism. When you say we are libertarian communists, you are meaning to people, you are saying to people, I can organize that hospital better than the state. Better, not the same. Because the same, nobody wants a change to get the same. So the idea, the main idea is I can organize the hospital better than the state. Not the same. This is crucial because then there's no revolution. There's no revolutionary thinking because nobody wants a change to get the same. And if you go to a hospital, you will see a structure of hundreds of people. If you go to the airport, you will see a structure of thousands of people every hour. And when I say I'm libertarian communist, which I say, I mean I can organize that airport better than the state. The idea is the union needs to function better than the enterprise because the first step is making a self-defense tool against the enterpriser to get better life conditions, and the goal is to have the tools of the enterpriser and make it ours for making an economy on a libertarian way. That's the kind of thinking that goes to we need to have an office stable. I cannot organize a union if I have the fear every month to be evicted.
Let me also add that, of course, we have this problem in Greece, what you described before as the confusion of where to socialize and where to do political work. So when all you have as anarchist movement is social spaces, social space, and squads that are social spaces and do mostly socializing, literally you go to these spaces and you don't have the mentality or the attitude to do political work, to do serious work. It's like going to the beach and trying to work as an architect. It just is not possible. So it's very important what you said about space. My second remark relates to what you just said, and it's that how do you think the equilibrium, because when you use managerial tools, like what you said, managers, CEOs have found ways, capitalism in general has found very advanced ways to organize things efficiently, but by using sometimes these tools, because tools are not always neutral, don't you get something in terms of, you understand, this kind of ideology?
They are not neutral.
Yeah.
They are not neutral. For example, mobile phones and...
Have you discussed in the organization maybe, or what is your opinion of using a tool like, for example, we were discussing the other time about your cards, which is actually a managerial tool, but you put it in use to organize in an anarcho-syndicalist way. Is there a general, how to say, tactics that you have found in order not to be used more by the tool, but to use it according to anarchist strategic goals and principles?
It's a complex idea. The first thing is just think on what's the main goal, what I want to do. What is more important, for example, in order to organize people? Getting the result I want without being absorbed by the system, or create an alternative, new way of making that which is not created by the capitalism, so it can influence it. What's the main? Because This is the first decision. If I decide the latter, I have a problem. We are in the 21st century. So we're in a very, very highly technocratic background, and all tools are in a way or other used to establish the system as it is. So it's not possible to make an alternative, an influenceable way of working. For example, mobile phones. We know that Twitter, Facebook, all these nets, they are all biased to simply social control. It's a reality. But it's a reality that everyone is in that. So you have to decide. It's like different bubbles. You have the bubble of Facebook, you have the bubble of Twitter, you have the bubble of... But everyone is there. If you want to reach to them, you don't have any other. Unless you only want to be a very little group, highly secretive, but then you will not reach the portion of masses. So use the tools wisely and trying not to get absorbed by the system. But what is be absorbed by the system? Using Twitter, and when we publish, we will have a meeting, a formative session for learning basic unionist skills. I know the CIA will know. We don't need to be secretive at that level, because then you will not do anything, which is the goal they want you to do, not to do anything. So you have to naturally use all things available, because be absorbed by the system for if you want to put it that in a very simple way, is to be in an office of your municipality, paid by the government to make whatever thing. If I use social networks, if I use cards to relate, if I used another kinds of managerial systems, I'm being absorbed by the system? I don't think so. Maybe some people do, but I don't think so. Because what's the goal? The goal is reach to people. Use social networks. Because, for example, in the USA, the intent to organize for first time unions inside the monster enterprise Amazon. They had to use this kind of digital tools and other ones, and they didn't get the goal, because the enterprise used such tools in the other way to prevent people to organize. I think this will be a more clear idea. Tools are hardware. The important is the firmware. So if you had a firmware for getting goals of unionized people on certain anarcho-syndicalist principles, then the hardware use is not important. You have to use the hardware you need. Or firmware or software, whatever you want. You get hardware, the tools, and you get software. How will we? What's the goal? What's the manner of doing it? So you have to be anarchistic software on a hardware you need. If I need a car to go to an assembly, I have to use a car. I have to rent buses to make a big demonstration. I have to be able to rent that buses.
But sometimes it's like your hardware is so good or so strong that has already some aims in it. But this also sometimes becomes a fetish, like with values, or
Yes.
you get carried away, or in technological tools. We see now, especially after the COVID pandemic, that many people do activism, or they consider that they do some kind of anarchism through social media. While you've never seen these people in real life. That's one new thing, I guess, after COVID. But these people may get from one post 1,000 likes, So your software or firmware has to be very strong to keep you from get so captivated by hardware.
In the end, it is a matter of analyzing. Maybe the question you are making about what kind of tools can condition the way you work, more or less, maybe it's a case by case analyzing a scenario. That tool, what needs to be done, what can be done. It's useful or not, or what's the list of problems and what's the list of positive things, and then decide a case by case. I like to put simple examples to get the idea, and with this abstract, make the analysis of a big situation. If you need to make if you have a public of 10 people, which it will be an anarchist group, you can have one person with a paper with all the numbers in the paper, and in 20 minutes make 10 calls. That day at that hour we can meet and discuss. But if you have to reach 200 people, maybe you can't use a paper and 3 days of making calls. You need to have another kind of approach to convoke the people to get one day to make a decision. So you have emails, list of emails and things like that. Many times, maybe this is a sociological approach, many times in a very little group, the participation of individuals is enhanced because the contact is very direct. If you call me and you say, "Hey Jordi, how are you? How was your exam last day? Or how was your father? Tomorrow will we meet to make an assembly. Can you come, please?" This kind of relation makes me very easy to say yes. I will be there. Yes. An email maybe is more cold. This day there is an assembly. Please come. Maybe it's cold, but you have to think. This is the best. It's impossible to make 300 calls like I was telling you now. It's impossible. And even if you think about that, I don't know what's the maximum number of friends I can have. I suppose I have 30 friends as a maximum. I don't know. One person that has 400 friends maybe is a sociopath or something strange. I don't know.
An influencer.
If you have, this is for one side. Another side, to put the same idea with different elements. Another side is, if you are revolutionary, the first thing is, what is your responsibility? Because working movement, from day zero, they have stated very clear, you have rights and you have duties. It's impossible to have a right without a duty. And it's not acceptable to have duties without rights. So, my right is go to the assembly and speak, and you hear my speech, which I have prepared, and I'm very proud of. We have 20 people hear what my words, so my ego goes a little. This is natural, it's no problem. But this is the right. But the duty is go the day and go the hour, and not ever I can give my opinion about the day and the hour. We need a little of discipline, the enough discipline just to make the machine or machine run. Just the amount, because you can make a revolution asking to everyone what's his opinion. Are you indisposed of using a gun? Thank you very much. People with guns in the right. Are you? So we have to make that equilibrium that was said before, and to try to make, because it's very complex. We are speaking about the function, the way of functioning of an anarcho-syndicalist union trains you to make this kind of function, because you elect some representatives in some portions of decision, but the other ones is your responsibility to make it for your way. You don't have to wait to receive an order to make some kind of things, but everyone works more efficient if we simply define roles. If we have 10 people here, but we let to the spontaneous the cleaning of the room will be dirty, and it's not a problem. It's simply that it's better to have roles. Then you can define the roles whatever you want. You can have, it's a joke, a responsible of health and cleaning, the same person ever. Well, is it right for you? Go that way. Or you can have a way of turns, put on paper, Monday, the person tal, they have to do that task. Obviously, it would be more nice, if you want to put it like that spontaneously people came to the local and to the office and said, I will broom I will clean and I will ordinate the things. But I suspect that in nature things don't work like that. And maybe is not so desirable to things were like that. I know, the only thing I know 100% is that capitalism is winning, and capitalism doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. Sometimes I speak with comrades and I say, what's the time you begin to make things for the union? What's the time the director of the bank has begun to make things for the capitalism? Yes, there's such conditioning, there's such, I have to work and you have family, and yes, I know. But just think like that. They win because they can put more resources to his goals. And I understand that if I make Fridays from 6 to 8 only, 1-2 hours a week for the revolution, you will have revolution when? I don't speak about making sacrifices. I just speak about making decisions because I don't know. No, just I'm active in the movement for 22, 23 years, more or less, or 24, I don't know just one case of people behaving. I can come to the assembly, I can come to make some help to the office that time. That person not makes university, working, karate classes, guitar classes, ukulele classes, whatever. It's a matter of what is important for me. Is going to the cinema? Okay, that's right. I like cinema. I don't have no problem with that. But then you can't say, oh, the union is going very slow. People doesn't involve. Okay. Friday, what do you prefer? I insist, it's not making a sect of people self-sacrificed for the goals of the movement. It's not like that. But it's positive to make the debate of rights and goals. Yes, you have the right to come to the assembly and speak of everything of the union. I don't like the TV on the wall, and the next time I don't like the fridge. Okay, it's no problem. But maybe you have to think about, in that right you have, what duty you put, because it's like a balance. If you have rights without duties, then we are not constructing nothing more. And for not being a little bit fetishistic about militant way of life, it's simple that helping a person that doesn't know what's his rights in the working place and going with them to speak with the enterpriser is just a commitment. Short in time if you want, but it's a commitment. So it's a thing of what kind of commitment you have. See, if your commitment is only I go to assemblies because then we go to the squad and have a beer and hear music, your commitment is a little bit light. You are going because it's a happy thing for you. But duties, no, they are not always happy. It's very boring to read the contract of one people and say, no, here put that, so it is wrong, so you have the right to make that. It's very boring, but it's a needful thing. Some people say, what's the useful thing of convincing a worker that never in the life has thinking about unionism, and the day he has a problem comes here? Well, it's the same useful thing that in the 19th century, when anarchistic people go to the fields to learn to read to the people. They couldn't read, so if they couldn't read anarchist propaganda. So they have a very intelligent idea. Let's go from the city to the fields and teach them to read. So we have our newspapers there. The movement grew like this. And I am absolutely sure that teaching reading people is the most boring thing in the life. It's better to go to a concert, it's better to go even a demonstration, even if the demonstration is very, very, very hard, it's more happy, more funny. But remember, rights and duties. And it's not a conclusion of the 21st century. Rights and duties is in the debate in the beginning of the working movement. If putting in other simplistic ways, making strike is a matter of commitment. But it's a matter of commitment with many things on the surface of the debate. If I make a strike, I didn't get the money, and maybe I will get fired. It's a difficult decision, a tricky decision. I would like to go now to any place and say with the megaphone, hey, let's go to the strike, and all the people making strike, but life doesn't function like this. Life functions as the example of the hospital. by trust. If I don't trust you, I don't go to the assembly, I don't go to a strike, I didn't even put my ear on your discussion. So one thing we have to do is gaining the trust of people, which is a very natural thing. Maybe it's not very healthy that people agrees with all just for reading on a paper. There's another thing on this or agreements, okay, vale? If life was so easy, oh, it's right, make a revolution. We will not be here speaking about that. You need the trust of people. You have to win the trust. Put it in the other way, which for me is very interesting. If people don't come to the office, it's our fault, not their fault. Yes, today capitalism has many tools to prevent people to go to the office. Netflix, cinemas, all you want. Okay, yes, this is true. But it's more useful to think, what can I do for people to agree with these ideas? Not that, people they are sold to capitalism, and I'm not. I'm very intelligent because I am agree with all that, and even sometimes maybe I wrote that idea. So the problem is the people they are sold to capitalism. It's not that simple way. And I can be very strong to making this idea because we are in the 21st century. We have more or less 50 years of experience, not only mine obviously, but the previous comrades that were organizing unions and that, to analyze and say, if I think that, and in 50 years I didn't get results, maybe they were not good ideas. So it's possible, it's very interesting to analyze what you are doing. If I put 10 papers on the same wall and nobody cares about that, maybe it's not a good way. Maybe I have to put 100 in other places. Or maybe I have to put 100 and put a post on a popular website.
Ξανά και ξανά και ξανά και ξανά σαρβάζουν και σε στροβιλίζουν κι όσο το παλεύεις τα φάλτσα πολλά περνούν κάνουν τη διαφορά κι έτσι έχεις το δικαίωμα κάτι άλλο να προσμένεις κάτι που δεν θα έρθει σαν ένα πέφτα αστέρι δεν θα είναι σαν υπόσχεση στο σύμπαν χρεωμένη κάτι που θα ακουστεί σαν μια κραυγή πνιγμένη σαν μετεμψυχώση τρελή από ένα αστέρι που πεθαίνει. Πέφτουν αστέρια βροχή μα την από το ευχηθώ μια
The other time I was here, it was opening hours.
Opening hours.
There are some hours
some hours for everyone and some hours only for membership.
every week, some days of the week.
2 days a week for the people which is not not belongs to the union, and the other time in the need. The membership can be in the local at any time. They can have because they have different working hours. So some people is in the morning, some people is in the afternoon. It depends.
And this is some of your material.
This is the material where the people are waiting for getting help.
I see also a comic of Spider-Man.
Yes, and we have this is a clear Bakunistic resource. This is for people who have children to come. Because normally they say, I cannot go because I have my daughter or I have my son. And now, for many years, we say everyone, no problem, come here, they can be writing or playing. We have toys, we have some resources for that, even for the membership to come to the assemblies. Because I cannot go because we have my daughter, they can be here. One person goes with all the children in a place separated, and they make class or they play or they whatever.
And
So we try to have a space friendly for everyone.
You could say a little about how you see or how you collectively see the differences between the working class of the past with the working class of the present. And then we go to the left and Podemos.
Well, maybe the answer is simplistic, but in the 30s it was only one identification as a working people, and now you have very fragmentation of the identification of self people, because market needs that, needs clients, and the client needs to feel special for saying, oh, this product is perfect for me. That's the motive why marketing and publicity speaks to the self and not to the collective, in broad senses. So we have a fragmentation of identification, which goes a long way more than only middle class. Middle class was a tool, obviously, but was the first door to the situation today, with is many identities, different identities, which can't make a collective vision or a very tiny collective. Everyone's obviously from a cultural perspective, the music you like, the products you consume, things like that. So people don't see each other having the same background, for example. It's difficult. So it's very useful for the system not to have big crowds of people organizing in the workplaces, which is more important than it seems, because the system is clearly prepared to treat with large crowds in the street, but is not interested to get that same crowd in the workplaces. Sometimes we said the fight is in the streets, like a motto or a message. We shall go to the streets, but capital doesn't move on the streets, and more in the 21st century, which is all telematic and even the economy runs automatically with machines and computers and stuff like that. The system can treat with large crowds on the street, but doesn't want people to be organized on the workplaces, because economy moves on the workplaces. The workplaces are the feet of the economy. So I think it's a very important thing to keep in mind. The street is important. It has a role, very precise role. Obviously, in a revolution, the street will have a moment, a very clear moment, but it's only a moment. It's not a goal. To be on the street demonstrating, it can't be a goal. When it's a goal by itself to be in the street demonstrating, we are in the way that system can control us. You have to keep in mind that nowadays they are in certain places of the earth. We have mobilizations being cut with drones, not even with people, with drones. And we are now in a very difficult situation. They don't need 1,000 guards on the street to control people. They can use fewer people and just drones and machines. So we have to keep in mind that maybe it's the same, at least important, to be on the workplaces than to be on the streets. But this is basically unionist way of thinking. I know.
It is really important.
I'd like to know the way of thinking of the comrades in Greece. Because we have that image, I tell you, the last time, of many people in the street, hard people, prepared people. And
Yeah, it's not like that right now. It has reached as we said,
some kind of point of...
Yes, and because we didn't use well the spaces and times we had in previous years, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, to construct some kind of a structure.
Yes,
Get the people involved. And...
a kind of type of organization that actually can have some continuity and can, go on in the... Not only that, but there is this feeling that we have lost also certain things that we've won over the years, also in terms of space, but also ideologically. In some other fields, like feminism or migrant struggles, we have become more advanced. But what to do it if it remains pure ideological or between people that you agree, if you cannot organize effectively, what to do it if we know more things and we are more conscious now about certain things, if you can't effect a change in society, it becomes that you can't actually effect a change to you too, because of the disappointment, then other things happen also in psychopolitical terms. But let's go, if you like, to the Podemos phenomenon on the left.
I don't know. I have certain information about Greece, but I don't know if it's the same phenomenon. Alexis Tsipras and Syriza and so on. But I suspect that it's very similar, because it's an emerging new left in the midst of a crisis, a very huge crisis, that defying the political system of the moment can get people on the political debate, people of a younger generation that were totally outside the political interest spectrum and so on, and then changes from the challenge of the political system to the integration in the exact same political system. This is the process. In the process, you get the demoralization of people, and you get the gaining of certain layers of power, maybe presence in the government, and even making some laws, but not having exerted some kind of power self-determinated. I don't know if it's a clear idea for you. Es una nueva izquierda que recoge toda una energía de protesta que hay porque el sistema está fracasando. The system was in failure. So was an energy of the people of this is not functioning. Ellos recogen toda esa energía y desafiando al sistema político imperante, the political system in Spain was of two parties, really. One of the left, the socialist one, and one of the right, the conservative one. Se van turnando en el poder y entonces esta nueva izquierda rompe esa dinámica. This new left breaks that dynamic of changing the left and the right, the left and the right, and even makes that political spaces of the right and of the left making changes, obviously cosmetic changes, but changes, they change everything. The people in charge, they change the way they communicated, they change the logos of the parties, which was a very surprising thing at that moment. So this new left gains the energy of the people that thinks the system was in failure, because the system was in failure, but in the end they behave like a vaccine for the system. Al final llegan a los gobiernos y no se pueden hacer cambios. The most dramatic example for us is the referendum on Greece. They won a referendum, but they can put on the table the decision because global powers are so mighty and so on and so on. But then the lesson is obvious. The institution doesn't serve the people. So we have to make this is a clear anarchistic statement because I think that it's a very important lesson. In Spain, this period of 4 or 5 years of Podemos going from being camped in the street protesting against the system to being in the government, in the institutions, they just gained more people for a system that was in total failure in the way of so people that was not interested or even in the libertarian movement, even seeing the libertarian movement doesn't gain things and there's a new energy and there's a new proposal, new with very things to speak, but seeing in that time it was a new proposal, many people drifted from the libertarian positions to a strange new left, not classical left. But then something happened that was going from being camped in the streets and to the government is not an easy movement. You don't have a structure to go to exert power in the government. You don't have. You are all people from the university, people of the new left, they have no political experience. How you make that? It can't be made just by spontaneous generation. They had how it is said, un pacto con la izquierda más tradicional y clásica, with the more classical and communist left, because they didn't have people of experience to put in on the places they gained with that energy going to the camped people in the streets to people voting for the municipality for this kind of new left. They have to make a party that was not it doesn't exist. So they have this pact with the more classical and communist left. So you have the same story as ever. I don't know if this process is the same in Syriza, I don't know.
It's exactly the same. The only difference.
This is a very interesting thing.
Yeah,
if it is exactly the same, it's a very, very interesting thing. Because you have to know, you as a militant, you know how difficult it is to make a project work. You have problems to make posters, just to make posters.
And
how these people can, from one day in 3 days, have this amount of things.
one difference may be that the ΣΥΡΙΖΑ party, in terms of party politics, is a little older than Podemos, because Podemos was literally created on 2012, maybe something like that. But it's exactly the same process, because when they came into government, they didn't know how to govern. They didn't know that state is something entirely different than street politics.
It seems the exact same process. Just a rescue of the system. Just a rescue of the system. But an opportunity for anarchistic discourse to reclaim another ways of politics which are not the institution. For us, here, the union. The union is the way working class makes politics. Struggles, strikes, and so on. So when we say we ask people not to vote on politics, we are making nowadays from a position of making our own proposal. 20 years ago, it was not like that. It was not going to vote just for being anarchistic. For the etiqueta, por la etiqueta, for the...
Ideological reasons, just for that.
Yes, ideological, but without... because it's an interesting affirmation. I understand what you mean for that, but we make ideological discourse permanently every day we open the office. But we don't make ideological statements. We make from the abstract ideological proposition, we make the example. I'm helping one person freely just because my aim is showing him that collectively we help. They say, for example, thank you, Jordi, for your help. No, I'm not helping you. It's the union.
It's not voting because I have the identity of the anarchist, and it's like, as anarchists, we don't vote. It's not voting because actually we try to do something else which is better.
Which is interesting because sometimes I remember clearly the strange feeling of discussing this thing with some people which were not of the movement, but they have clearly image of what anarchist is. So they told me, you don't vote because you are anarchist, you don't like to vote. Yeah. But then I think, one moment, I'm voting every week. It can't be the motive. It can be the motive. I like voting. You don't vote because you are not democratic, you are anarchist. Yes. But I was shocked to understand this is not the motive. No, I'm more democratic. I'm direct Democrat because I vote every week. And when I vote for some kind of proposal and it is defeated by the collective, I respect the decision. I'm more democratic than a person that goes once every 4 years to elect a politician to make decisions. But at that time, we as a project, as a movement, we were not able to explain in a clear way and we prefer to get the stamp of being anarchist, so we were better than everyone. That was the problem. And that was in a background of the 80s and the 90s, that we can make is total waste of time to make a discourse and a proposal and a project. But now, as we discussed the other day, we don't have a decade to make little improvements, because capitalism is on a very, very precise moment of which I told the other day, the emergence of the authoritarian state and these kind of things, and the energetic crisis, which for me is very, very important, the energetic and ecological crisis. So we don't have one decade to interrogate us why we are only 8 people. I don't understand. In the 30s they were 1 million, and now we are 8. What's the problem? We don't have. We took 2 decades to understand these kind of things we are debating. 2 decades is not efficient. We don't have 2 decades now. The world the world and our neighbors in 10 years will be very, 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 very different. So that kind of debates are very important and very interesting when there is an opportunity to share that kind of thoughts.
So, in relation to an anarchist strategy of what we can do, I mean, you talk through your paradigm here, but maybe in relation to the previous discussion, why people should not also invest to this little change, as there is no time, because this is an argument you hear a lot, you know, that, okay, I'm not into radical change, let's try, little by little, and they invest to some reformist or left solution. But one counter argument is that, okay, we tried that for many decades now, it seems like it doesn't work.
And this is a very important argument. And this argument was difficult to explain 25 years ago. But now you can say, we have tried during 15, you only have to see what has happened with the salaries in the last 30 years to understand that there was no interesting strategy for the working class to be social democrats, because we only had one generation with certain rights and a little amount of state care and things like that. One generation. So promote radical ideas seems now a very interesting option. So I think we have a window of opportunity for anarchistic discourses to spread, and to not just spread discourses, make projects, real projects, and the easiest one, continuing, is the union. The union is the simplest idea, practical, to go from ideological thoughts to practical ways. I have to work, I'm being exploited, what can I do for preventing this situation? And with this, you discover you have power. Power not just for making one vote every 4 years, but you have a direct power.
One problem, we didn't discuss at all, but maybe you want to share some thought, is that people indeed now seem to be more susceptible, open to some radical discourse or solution, but the thing they see as radical, and you will tell me about Spain if it's the same, because in Greece, after the left government, in Portugal, where I was now, after the left coalition, between the ΣΥΡΙΖΑ of Portugal, the Communist Party, and the Social Democrats. And in Italy, as you know from the recent elections, it's the far-right and fascist discourse that gets more power. What do you see a relation between people's investment to some left solution and then saying, I'm putting it very simplistically, that okay, this is the left, it doesn't work, life sucks, you know, everything is bad now, yeah, let's try with the fascists, why not?
We need harder voices to resolve the problem, to solve the problem.
What do you think? Do you think something is happening there? What is the situation also in Spain? Is the same phenomenon at work?
Exactly the same. I don't have the solutions, but I think it's the same thing you were describing, and it's a matter of we are living in the society of social networks and the easiest way to spread certain discourses. We are in the time of Trump being president. We are in the time of Trump trying a coup d'etat in broad light, which is very surprising. So is the game of go from one side to or the other side, just to make people don't see where they have to see to have power, which is unionism for us, under the coordinates of anarcho-syndicalism, obviously, not socialist or communist unions or something like that, because we have a broader agenda. We have an agenda of organizing in the workplace to see that is the way that we can organize society, because improvement in the workplace, you have to correlate it to improvement in your life, in your neighborhood. It's not a question of only get more paid and don't care for anything more. So, far right is just one of the colors of the power to control people. Because we are moving towards the thing I told you about the emerging of the authoritarian state, it has to be correlated with the thing that we are moving towards a society of very, very, very few people with the resources and the crowds without resources, which is the way they live now in Brazil or in Mexico, or in South Africa even. The fewer rich people can live in the villas, luxury villas, and they move in helicopter to work and this kind of thing. Society capitalism can run like that. And because we are now in the age of the scarcity, of not have enough resources, they only are making a strategy to shape society as a society where they have the control of that resources. Put it simplistic, because I think I'm going very, very abstract and very apocalyptical. I don't want to sound like that. As the simple way is, in 5 years from now, you will have electric cats, you will have electric 4 days a week, and maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week you will have problems, but the fewer rich people, they will have plenty of electricity and plenty of other things. You have seen a shadow of what will be the future in the pandemic. First of all, you don't have the masks you need, you don't have the vaccines you need, but you have discourse of the vaccines are dangerous, but all the rich people were getting vaccinated in front of us. So they control the majority of the people, and when they need, then we came all the other ones. That's the shadow of the future society. So the emerging of far right, going to more directly on the question you were making, I think it's just a movement of the system for controlling the masses. Because the same powers that make economic resources for that parties are investing on the left and are investing on the right. The big powers, the big players of the global scenario, the big countries, the big enterprises. Why is that? What makes certain capitals of monies and economic powers from Russia and from Iran putting money on the left and putting money on the right? Why is that? Because it's a geostrategic movement. Why in Spain, in the midst of the pandemic, in the more crude situation of the pandemic, why they were cyber attacks on the health system in the more difficult moment? Because they are geostrategic powers, we are constant struggling, and you are now in the society that you can have a huge mass of loans assault the capital on the United States just for putting narratives on moving by social networks and websites, and the powers, the economic powers, have some kind of very potent tools to shape people's opinion, and they can put it 1 year in a place, another year. So we have a very difficult situation, but you don't have any other way that try to have a very solid project. The feeling you told me the other day that we have many thousands for the streets, but we think we're having the debate that this is not enough, because what comes next? The key is what comes next. This is the key, because if you don't have an idea of what to put the feet when you put what's the next step, then you don't have an agenda. And powers have agendas. The agenda comes from your ideological proposition, in our case, an anarchistic view of the society, with the tool of the union, but you have to have a plan. If not, then you are going to no place. And now time is running out. That's a problem. So we don't have obviously any big solution for that, but we are trying to develop a program, short-term, mid-term, and long-term, for putting our best on making our unions capable of exerting certain kinds of power. If in this pandemic was spontaneously creating a net of people helping each other, why do we not structure inside our project this kind of thinking? Because capitalism will take advantage of any crisis, being coronavirus, being or even is health, or even is climate, or even is economic, or simply they take advantage of that because they had their agenda, they had their tools, they have resources. We have to do the same. So for doing the same with no resources, first you have to analyze and think and assume that I make that movement, but it gets no results, is not correct. We need to get results and improve, and assume we will make more mistakes. More. It's necessary to make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you don't evolve. But the problem is that you don't have all the time you want to just analyze, and sometime we'll have a solution. This is very difficult. It's not it's just making sure your project is solid on time and gets result. And your membership and your project have to have a clear vision of I'm interested in being in this project because I need this project. When we were 20 years old or 18 years old, we were very radical, but in reality, we didn't need the project to run. We need socialize, but we didn't need the project to be especially solidified and in movement. But prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic, we ascertained, we discovered that we help us and other people in ways that nobody does. If we don't help people of this city on a friendly way for assessing them on some kind of problem in their problems, I mean real problems. I have a child, my boss doesn't want me to get out of my work in the time we have in the contract. What can I do? I have a child. This is a real problem. The other kinds of problem, if my organization is more democratic or it isn't, they're not real problems. They are ideas, interesting ideas, but the ideas you have to solve them quickly because reality goes another speed. And in the 21st century, it goes at a very long speed. So that's the reason, because we think that the struggle, even political, inside workplaces is interesting, because even in an ideological way is the simplest and maybe the only way where class war is showed. Is the simplest way. Your boss doesn't care about you, about your health, about your child, and your boss have a car that costs the same as your house. This is class struggle. Pure. We don't need Karl Marx, even we don't need Bakunin. The workplace tells and teaches many things. What's the paper of the anarchist militants or even anarcho-syndicalistic militants in a place where they are only the person who has this view? The same paper that have Bakunin many years ago, when they go to the bars and well-distributed leaflets and saying, I have a group in Italy that is going to make a coup, Italy. Many times it was a pure lie, but with these pure lies, he constructed that group in Italy, that group in France. This is the interesting thing. So I think we are doing in the 21st century a very Bakuninistic thing with this kind, because the people of the militant, the paper of the militants is be that voice within the workplace says, I know how we can win this motherfucker. Beep. We have to organize. I have a place to go where the boss doesn't hear our conversation. Don't worry. Come with me with my comrades and we will analyze the problem. Then, the key element is when the workers go to that place, they will get trust or they will get distrust. And so I connect with the other thing I was telling you about the trust is what you win with the office, with your behavior, with your way of working, and I don't know any short way to gain trust of people. But I think clearly that the key factor is the trust. If a person goes to assembly and his conclusion is, these people can't help me, you have failed. And you have to see that. You don't have to see, oh, she don't read Bakunin, so the problem is hers. No, the problem is you. You have read Bakunin, but you don't have understand nothing, because Bakunin could, in that moment, without smartphones, without the same resources you have, aggregate people, large numbers of people. So it's important to understand that, because it's the key to another reflections. What is my commitment with the project? Is enough commitment? When I prefer to socialize than to make a boring task, this is real commitment. Revolutions are always funny. Are always funny and always take place in the moment I can be, I don't know, if it's not ideas I have, is all that books you see, is making, paying attention on what you read, and even analyzing other revolutions, not just of the or ideological spectrum, and analyzing that what things they have in common, and be realistic. If I have 19 years old and I don't have any experience on nothing, if I go to speak with an enterpriser, what sees him? I think he sees a Bakuninistic, violent rioter, and he will have fear. No, he will see a kid with no idea, with no capable of speaking, of convince. So for this, I connected with the idea that union is a school where you, if you are not capable of speaking in an assembly and convince of what point, or respecting one point you don't agree, how do you call your comrades to a strike in your family, in your workplace? You need that abilities. That abilities they don't come only from reading books. If only they what's the problem, it will be easy. You will make an enterprise with making books, and all the days making books and free for people. You still prepare books. It's not like that. You have to stay work in the social movement. It was negatively a place of socializing, because you were working with the neighbor. You were working, then you were home. In the door at the side was your comrade of the workplace. So if you want, or nowadays you can work with people and have no relation at all. You think that people that are unrelated absolutely, but working together can strike? We have to be more social than even in the 19th century. interesting element.
Yeah.
Very boring.
Believe me, it will not be boring.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry because the issue I like a lot, so it's easy for me.
But this is the passion. This is the passion we need because it's what you say. I can see it in practice. You know, this kind of passion, like back when going with the leaflets and everything. But one great difficulty, like we touched it indirectly, is that we, the people in the movement, I mean in Greece, I feel this all the time, have lost our passion, have lost our agony, you know, for a better word. What you said before that, you know, we don't even believe anymore that it's going to happen. I mean, some of us try to believe it, but when you are in an environment or your collective projects are full of people that have broken, you know, mentally and everything, these environments become just safe spaces, you know,
To survive.
interact, to survive, to socialize, I don't know. So one step is to find again that passion, and this goes through organization, through convincing first of all ourselves that, you know, we can organize like this and we can succeed. You know, it's not impossible.
First little things and then more complex.